She has your last name. The words fell from my mother-in-law's lips like poison, each syllable dripping with a sickening mixture of shame and pity. I stood frozen in my kitchen, the phone pressed against my ear, my wedding photo staring back at me from the counter. James's smile now looked different, secretive, even sinister. I couldn't breathe. "What did you just say?" I whispered, though I had heard her perfectly. My fingers clutched the granite countertop, knuckles whitening as if holding on to the last remnants of the life I thought I knew. "I'm so sorry, Elizabeth," Margaret continued, her voice cracking with the weight of betrayal. Not hers, but one she was transferring to me. "I didn't know how to tell you. She's in town, Rebecca, and she's still using the Anderson name." The kitchen tilted around me. Rebecca Anderson, not Rebecca Miller, her maiden name that James had casually mentioned once in passing during our 5 years of marriage. Rebecca Anderson, like me, Elizabeth Anderson. I glanced at the clock. 3:17 p.m. on a Tuesday in October. Such an ordinary moment for my world to implode. Outside, the Vermont autumn painted our neighborhood in fiery reds and golds, oblivious to the cold spreading through my chest. "Elizabeth? Are you still there?" Margaret's voice seemed distant now. "Does James know she's here?" I asked, surprised at the steadiness in my voice while everything inside me trembled. The silence that followed was my answer. "How long has he known?" I pressed, a new emotion beginning to burn through the shock. Something dangerous, something alive. "I don't think—" "How long, Margaret?" The words sliced through the air like a blade. Another pause. 3 weeks, maybe 4. 4 weeks. 28 days of morning coffees and goodnight kisses. 28 days of I love yous and shared showers and weekend plans. 4 weeks of lies layered so perfectly I never felt their weight. "Where is she staying?" I asked, already reaching for my car keys, my body moving with a will of its own. "Elizabeth, please don't do anything. Where is she, Margaret?" Something in my tone must have frightened her. "The Lakeside Inn on Prospect Street." She sighed heavily. "But please talk to James first. There might be an explanation." "An explanation?" I repeated, the word hollow in my mouth. "For why my husband's ex-wife is in our town using my last name. For why he's known for a month and said nothing, while he looked me in the eyes every night and told me he loved me." The photo on the counter caught my eye again. Our wedding day. I was radiant in white, nestled against James's chest, his arms wrapped protectively around me. The same James who had whispered, "My past doesn't matter. Only our future does." The same James who changed the subject whenever I asked about his first marriage, saying only that it ended badly and he'd rather forget. Now I understood why. "I need to go," I said, slipping on my jacket. "Elizabeth, wait." I ended the call and dropped my phone into my purse. Outside, the wind tossed golden leaves across our driveway, the driveway James had insisted we repave last month, saying he wanted everything perfect for when we started trying for a baby next year. Had that been another lie? My car started with a familiar purr. James and I had bought it together after I got promoted to department head at Burlington University. "Only the best for my brilliant wife," he'd said, kissing me in the dealership. I backed out of the driveway of our Victorian home in the historic district, the house James had fallen in love with instantly, insisting we buy it even though it stretched our budget. "Some things are meant to be," he'd said. The irony wasn't lost on me as I drove through our picturesque New England town, past the coffee shop where James and I met 4 years ago, past the city hall where we'd married in a small, intimate ceremony. James hadn't wanted a big wedding, I now recalled. "It's not about the ceremony," he'd insisted. "It's about our life together. Our life together. A life apparently built on secrets so deep they had names and histories I knew nothing about." The Lakeside Inn appeared ahead, a charming 3-story colonial overlooking Lake Champlain. In any other circumstance, I would have admired its quaint beauty. Today, it loomed like a mausoleum. I parked haphazardly and walked inside, my heels clicking against the polished floor with military precision. At the front desk, a young man greeted me with a practiced smile. "I need Rebecca Anderson's room number," I said, my voice someone else's entirely. His smile faltered. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't give out guest information." I pulled out my driver's license. "I'm Elizabeth Anderson. She has my husband. And my name. My name is Elizabeth Anderson, Dr. Elizabeth Anderson if we're being formal, with a PhD in American literature from Columbia." I've spent my life studying stories, analyzing their patterns, their hidden meanings. I can dissect Hemingway's silences and Faulkner's streams of consciousness with surgical precision. But I never saw the gaps in my own narrative until today. I'm 41 years old. Not young, not old enough to know better, as my mother would say. Old enough not to fall for a charming smile and promises of forever. Yet here I am, standing in the lobby of the Lakeside Inn, asking for the room number of my husband's ex-wife, whom he told me was ancient history. The desk clerk stares at my driver's license, then at me, clearly calculating the professional risk against the human drama unfolding before him. I can see him wavering, his training battling his curiosity. "Please," I say, and something in my voice, its quiet dignity perhaps, makes his decision for him. "Room 312, he says softly, "but I didn't tell you that." I nod my thanks and head for the elevator, my reflection in its brass doors showing a woman I barely recognize. I'm wearing a camel-colored blazer over a cream silk blouse, dark jeans and low heels, my teaching outfit from earlier today, when my biggest concern was whether my students had actually read Jane Eyre. My auburn hair is pulled back in a loose bun, a few strands escaping around my face. I look put together, professional. No one would guess that inside. I'm splintering into 1,000 jagged pieces. The elevator rises silently, giving me time to consider what I'm doing. What will I say when I come face to face with this woman? What do I even want to know? Everything. And nothing. 5 years ago, I was contentedly single, focused on my career at Burlington University, newly tenured and working on my book about female narratives in post-war American literature. My life was organized, predictable, safe. Then James walked into the Maple Tree Cafe while I was grading papers, ordered a black coffee, and changed everything. James Anderson. 45 now, though he looks younger with his thick dark hair just beginning to silver at the temples. An architect with his own small but successful firm in town. He designs beautiful spaces. "I create the settings where people live their stories," he once told me. His eyes are the deep blue of Lake Champlain in summer. When he focuses those eyes on you, you feel like the only person in the world. He pursued me gently but persistently. Coffee became dinner, became weekends together. He was divorced, he told me early on. "It ended badly," he said with a shadow crossing his face. "She wasn't who I thought she was. That was all. I didn't press. Everyone has pain they'd rather not revisit. We married after 8 months. Fast, but it felt right. When you know, you know," my friend Diane had said at our engagement party, raising her glass in a toast. Did I know, though? Did I really know the man whose ring I wear? The elevator doors open on the 3rd floor. The hallway stretches before me, quiet and innocuous with its floral wallpaper and sconces casting a warm glow. Room 312 will be to the right, about halfway down. My feet move forward while my mind continues its journey backward. Our life together has been good. We live in a beautiful 1890s Victorian with a wraparound porch where we drink wine on summer evenings. James's business thrives. I teach my classes and write my articles and mentor my graduate students. We host dinner parties. We take vacations to Maine in the summer and the Caribbean in winter. We've built a good life, a real life, haven't we? Last month, we started talking seriously about a baby. "It's time," James said, holding me close in our 4-poster bed. "I want to see you holding our child." I'd been hesitant. My career, my age, the statistics. But he'd been so sure, so encouraging. "You'll be an amazing mother," he'd insisted. "It's the next chapter of our story, the one I thought I knew." I reach room 312 and stand before it, hand raised to knock, frozen in the moment before everything changes again. Behind this door is a woman who shared James's life before me, a woman he never really told me about, a woman who still uses his name, our name. Why is she here? What does she want? And why did James hide her arrival from me? I think of the night 2 weeks ago when James got a call during dinner. He'd stepped outside to take it, returning distracted and tense. "Work," he'd said dismissively when I asked. I believed him. We finished our meal, washed dishes side by side as we always do, then went upstairs and made love. Had he been thinking of her? I knock. 3 sharp raps that echo my heartbeat. Silence. I knock again, louder. I've come too far to turn back now. The door opens, and I find myself face to face with not what I expected. She's younger than me, maybe mid-30s, tall and willowy, with long blonde hair and eyes the color of whiskey. Beautiful, yes, but not in an intimidating way. There's a softness to her face, a vulnerability. She's wearing jeans and a simple blue t-shirt that matches the color of James's eyes exactly. The coincidence feels like a slap. She looks at me curiously, no recognition in her expression. "Can I help you?" Her voice is pleasant, touched with a slight southern accent. Georgia, maybe. "Are you Rebecca?" I ask, though I know the answer. She nods, wariness creeping into her eyes. "Rebecca Anderson?" Another nod, slower this time. "Yes. And you are?" I take a deep breath, straighten my shoulders. "I'm Elizabeth Anderson, James's wife." The color drains from Rebecca's face. For a moment, I think she might faint. She grips the doorframe, knuckles whitening. "His wife?" she repeats, each word careful, deliberate. "James's wife?" There's genuine shock in her voice, her eyes. Either she's an exceptional actress or she didn't know about me. The realization hits me with unexpected force. I'm not the only one being deceived here. "Yes," I confirm, watching her carefully. "We've been married for 5 years. She steps back, a hand rising to her throat in a gesture so vulnerable it disarms me. That's not possible. Something cold settles in my stomach. "I assure you, it's very possible. I have the marriage certificate to prove it." Rebecca shakes her head, not in denial but in disbelief. Then, to my surprise, she opens the door wider. "You'd better come in." The room is neat, but lived in. A laptop sits open on the desk beside a half-empty coffee cup. Clothes are draped over a chair. On the bedside table, there's a framed photograph I can't quite see from the doorway. "How long have you been in Burlington?" I ask, remaining standing even as she perches on the edge of the bed. "A little over a month." Her hands twist together in her lap. "James knew I was coming. He helped me find this place." The confirmation lands like a physical blow. "And you're still using his last name because..." Rebecca's eyes meet mine directly. "Because we're still married." The world stops, tilts, restarts at a different angle. "That's not possible." I echo her earlier words. "He divorced you before we met. He told me..." "What exactly did he tell you?" She interrupts, her voice suddenly sharp. I search my memory, realizing for the first time how vague James had always been. That you were married briefly, that it ended badly, that he'd rather not discuss it. A bitter laugh escapes her. "Briefly? We've been married for 12 years. She stands, moves to the desk, retrieves her purse. From it, she pulls a wallet, and from the wallet, a folded document. She hands it to me. "Our marriage certificate, May 15th, 2012, Boston, Massachusetts." I unfold the paper with trembling hands. There it is, in black and white. James Michael Anderson and Rebecca Lynn Miller. The official seal of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Undeniable. "This doesn't make sense," I whisper. "We were married in 2019. There would have been a background check. Questions. He couldn't have legally married me if..." "Unless he used a different identity," Rebecca suggests quietly. "James has always been resourceful. I think of our small ceremony at City Hall, how James had handled all the paperwork. Had I ever actually seen our marriage license? He'd said he'd filed it, that the copy would come in the mail. When it never arrived, he'd shrugged it off. Bureaucracy, he'd said. I'll follow up. Somehow, it had never seemed important enough to pursue. "Why are you here?" I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. "After all this time?" Rebecca hesitates, then turns to the bedside table. She picks up the framed photograph I noticed earlier and hands it to me. It shows Rebecca, obviously pregnant, standing next to James on what appears to be a beach. They're both smiling. They look happy. The date stamped in the corner is from last year. "His name is Michael," she says softly. "He's 4 months old now." The photo slips from my fingers, hitting the carpet with a soft thud. The glass doesn't break. I almost wish it would. "You're lying," I manage, though deep down, I know she isn't. The pieces are falling into place with sickening clarity. Rebecca walks to a travel crib set up in the corner of the room that I hadn't noticed before. Inside, a baby sleeps peacefully. Dark hair, James's hair, curling against his forehead. "I'm not lying," she says, her voice both gentle and firm. "James and I have been together all along. He travels for work every few weeks, to see you, I guess. Then he comes home to us in Atlanta. The business trips that took James south every month or so. The late-night calls he'd take in his home office. The weekends when he was meeting clients. No, I say, but there's no conviction behind it. Just dawning horror. We've been trying to make it work, Rebecca continues, sitting back on the bed. After I got pregnant, James promised things would change. He said he'd find a way to be with us more. When I suggested moving to Vermont, he was resistant at first, but eventually agreed it might be easier if we were closer. Her eyes search mine. I had no idea about you. You have to believe that. And strangely, I do. There's too much raw pain in her eyes for this to be an act. We're both victims here. Both women who loved and trusted the same man, who built lives around his lies. Does he know you're talking to me? I ask. She shakes her head. He's supposed to come here tonight. He told me he had a late meeting but would stop by around 9. She glances at her watch. That's in 3 hours. The baby, Michael, stirs in his crib, makes a small sound. Rebecca immediately goes to him, lifting him with practiced ease, cradling him against her shoulder. The tenderness of the gesture makes my chest ache. This could have been me, if James's promises about starting a family had been sincere. I don't understand, I say, sinking into the desk chair, my legs suddenly unable to support me. Why maintain 2 separate lives? 2 separate wives? It makes no sense. Rebecca bounces gently, soothing the baby. James needs admiration, validation. One source is never enough. She speaks with the weary knowledge of someone who's spent years trying to understand the inexplicable. When we met, I was young, impressionable. He was this successful, charismatic man who swept me off my feet. Sound familiar? It does, painfully so. But over time, I became insufficient, she continues. He never said it directly, but I could feel it. His absences grew longer, his excuses more elaborate. I thought he was just having affairs. It never occurred to me he had a whole separate life. Another wife, I murmur. Another wife, she confirms, her gaze dropping to the baby in her arms. I wondered sometimes if there were others. The possibility hadn't occurred to me, but now that she's voiced it, it seems terrifyingly plausible. If James could maintain 2 separate lives, why not 3 or 4? What do you want from me? I ask, suddenly exhausted. Nothing, Rebecca says, surprising me. But I think we both deserve the truth, don't you? And a chance to decide our futures with open eyes. Outside the window, the afternoon sun casts long shadows across the lake. In 3 hours, James will walk through that door, expecting to find only Rebecca and his son. Instead, he'll find both his wives waiting, and many, many questions to answer. The baby, Michael, is awake now, looking at me with curious eyes that are unmistakably James's. It's like being watched by a miniature version of my husband, and the sensation is both fascinating and unbearable. Rebecca notices me staring. Would you like to hold him? She offers, surprising me with her generosity in this impossible situation. I hesitate, then nod. She places Michael in my arms, adjusting my hold with gentle efficiency. He's heavier than I expected, solid and warm, his little body radiating trust. He regards me solemnly for a moment, then his face breaks into a toothless smile that punches straight through my heart. He likes you, Rebecca observes softly. He doesn't know any better, I reply, but I'm smiling back at the baby despite myself. This strange moment of connection seems to shift something between Rebecca and me. We're no longer just 2 women caught in a man's web of lies. We're human beings with a shared pain, trying to make sense of a senseless situation. Tell me about you and James, she says, settling into the armchair across from me. How you met. I want to understand everything. So I tell her about the cafe, the courtship, the wedding. As I speak, memories surface, taking on new dimensions in light of what I now know. He told me he was from California originally, I say, that he moved east for college and never left. Rebecca nods. He told me he was born in Boston, never lived anywhere else until we moved to Atlanta 6 years ago. 6 years ago, right around when I met him. The timeline suddenly makes sickening sense. Your book, Rebecca says suddenly. Did you publish a book a couple of years ago? About women in post-war literature? I nod, surprised. How did you know? He bought it, kept it on his nightstand, said it was brilliant, that the author was changing how people understood American literature. She smiles sadly. I read it. It is brilliant. I just didn't know the author was his other wife. The compliment, filtered through this bizarre circumstance, leaves me speechless. James read my book to her, praised my work to his other family, carried a piece of me into his other life. What about you? I ask, deflecting. What do you do? I'm a nurse, pediatric oncology. Her expression softens. That's how we met, actually. James was designing a new wing for the Children's Hospital in Boston. He used to bring coffee to the nurses' station. I remember James mentioning hospital projects, though he'd never specified which ones or where. Another half-truth in a tapestry of deception. I've been on leave since Michael was born, she continues, taking the baby back when he begins to fuss. James said I didn't need to go back to work, that he made enough for all of us. She laughs without humor. I guess maintaining 2 households is more expensive than I realized. James makes good money, I agree, but not that good. He must be drowning in debt. I think of our joint accounts, the investment portfolio he manages, our mortgage, how much of our financial life is real, and how much is fiction. As Rebecca prepares a bottle for Michael, I find myself studying her. She moves with quiet confidence, her actions efficient and purposeful. Despite everything, I can't bring myself to hate her. She's as much a victim in this as I am. When did you first suspect something was wrong? I ask. She tests the temperature of the formula on her wrist before answering. There were always inconsistencies in his stories, places he claimed to have been that didn't match his tan lines, friends he mentioned, then never brought up again. But I wanted to believe him. She settles into the chair, cradling Michael as he drinks eagerly. After a while, you start filling in the gaps yourself, making excuses for them. It's easier than facing the possibility that your entire relationship might be built on lies. I know exactly what she means. How many times had I glossed over James's vague explanations? How many inconsistencies had I rationalized away? The pregnancy changed things, Rebecca continues. Suddenly, I needed him to be present, to be reliable. But his disappearing acts continued. One night, when he was supposedly in Chicago, he called me. I heard a church bell in the background, a distinctive sound. The next day, I was watching the local news from Burlington on my laptop. I sometimes check the weather there because James talks about it so much. They did a story about the historic church downtown, and I heard that same bell. First Congregational, I murmur. It's 2 blocks from our house. Rebecca nods. That's when I knew he was lying about where he was. But even then, I never imagined this. We fall silent, the only sound Michael's contented feeding. Outside, the afternoon is fading into evening. The atmosphere between us has transformed from tension to a strange, sad camaraderie. Do you have photos? Rebecca asks suddenly. Of you and James? I pull out my phone, scroll to our album. Photos of vacations, dinner parties, ordinary moments. James and I hiking in the Green Mountains. James at his drafting table in his home office. James cooking in our kitchen, flour on his nose. Rebecca studies each one, occasionally making soft sounds of recognition. He has the same expression when he concentrates, she observes. And that's his favorite sweater. He wears it all the time at home, too. Home. The word echoes between us, its meaning fractured beyond repair. She hands me her phone in exchange. I swipe through images of her life with James. Their wedding, so different from ours. A beach ceremony. James in a light suit rather than the dark one he wore to marry me. Holiday gatherings with what must be her family. James holding newborn Michael in a hospital room, looking every inch the proud father. He was there for the birth? I ask, remembering a conference in Seattle that had kept James away for 5 days last winter. Every moment, she confirms. He cut the cord himself. I hand her phone back, unable to look at more. Each photo is another confirmation that the James I thought I knew is a carefully constructed fiction. Or perhaps both versions are fiction, and the real James, whoever that might be, is someone neither of us has ever truly known. I gave up a tenure-track position at NYU to move to Vermont with him, I find myself saying. He said he couldn't bear for us to be apart. That long distance would kill our relationship. He said his business was established in Burlington, that it would be easier for me to relocate. I laugh bitterly. I thought it was romantic, that he couldn't stand to be away from me. Now I realize he just couldn't manage 3 separate lives in 3 different cities. Rebecca's expression is sympathetic. I left my family in Georgia to follow him to Boston, then left my career advancement opportunities in Boston to follow him back to Atlanta. Always for his work. Always because he needed me with him. We've both rearranged our lives around this man, I realize. Sacrificed opportunities, distance from family, professional advancement, all for someone who divided his devotion like slices of pie, careful to keep us separated, unaware, controllable. What are we going to do? I ask, the question that's been hovering between us from the moment I walked through her door. Rebecca looks down at Michael, now sleeping in her arms. I don't know, she admits, but I know I can't keep living a lie, and I won't let my son grow up thinking deception is acceptable. Her words resonate with something deep inside me, a bedrock of integrity I've built my life upon, that James's lies have assaulted, but not destroyed. 3 hours until he arrives, I say, checking my watch. We need a plan. The plan is simple. I will hide in the bathroom when James arrives. Rebecca will confront him first, alone, give him enough rope to hang himself. Then, when the moment is right, I'll emerge. We'll face him together. These 2 women he's deceived, united in our demand for truth. As we wait, Rebecca puts Michael down for the night in his travel crib. I help her prepare a simple dinner from the small kitchenette in her suite. Nothing special, just sandwiches neither of us can stomach. The domesticity of the scene is surreal, like we're old friends rather than strangers bound by betrayal. You never suspected? Rebecca asks as she cuts a tomato with surgical precision. Never found anything suspicious. I think of the locked drawer in James's home office desk. There was a drawer he kept locked. I asked about it once. He said it contained old client files, confidential information. Did you ever look inside? No, I admit, feeling foolish now. I trusted him. Rebecca nods, understanding. There's a password-protected folder on his laptop called Archive. I always assumed it was work. It probably contains his guide to juggling multiple wives, I say, trying for humor, but achieving only bitterness. The minutes tick by. We exchange more stories, more realizations. The parallel vacations. He took you to Maine too? The similar gifts. The sapphire earrings were for your birthday, not his mother's. The shared holidays. He was with me last Christmas Eve, then must have flown to be with you Christmas morning. By the time 8:45 p.m. arrives, we've constructed a more complete picture of the man we both married. A man who kept meticulous mental records of his lies, who created elaborate systems to maintain his dual lives, who never slipped, never confused one wife for another, never mentioned the wrong name or reference. The level of calculation is breathtaking and terrifying. He's a psychopath, I whisper. Rebecca shakes her head. No, psychopaths don't feel emotion. James does. He just feels entitled to everything he wants, regardless of who gets hurt. He's not mentally ill. He's just selfish beyond comprehension. At 8:55, I position myself in the bathroom, door cracked just enough to hear. Rebecca arranges herself on the bed, Michael sleeping peacefully nearby. We exchange one last look, a promise, a pact, before I close the door further, leaving just a sliver of visibility. At 9:03, there's a knock. 3 soft raps, just as I would recognize from our own home. Rebecca calls. It's open, and then he's there, my husband, her husband, walking into the room with a confidence that turns my stomach. He's wearing his gray suit, the one I helped him select last month, telling him how handsome he looked in it. His hair is perfectly styled, his smile radiant as he crosses to Rebecca. Hey, beautiful, he says, kissing her as if it's the most natural thing in the world. I have to press my hand against my mouth to keep from making a sound. It's one thing to know about his deception intellectually, it's another to witness it with my own eyes. How's my little man? He asks, moving to the crib to gaze down at his son. Sleeping finally, Rebecca answers, her voice admirably steady. He was fussy earlier. Poor guy. James loosens his tie. And how are you? Better day to day? This casual intimacy, the shorthand of a long relationship, is like acid on my heart. I've had an interesting day, Rebecca says carefully. How was your meeting? James shrugs, dropping onto the edge of the bed. Boring. Client can't make up his mind about the facade material. I told him brick would overpower the street view, but he's obsessed with it matching the historical buildings. He rubs his face. But hey, that's why they pay me the big bucks, right? There is no such client. I know James's schedule intimately. He had no meetings today at all. About that, Rebecca says, her voice taking on a new edge. I've been thinking about our finances. James looks up, suddenly wary. What about them? Well, with the baby now, and the cost of this place, I was wondering if I could see our accounts, get a better handle on our situation. I can see James's shoulders tighten even from my limited vantage point. You don't need to worry about that stuff, Beck. I've got it under control. But I'd like to see, she persists. For my own peace of mind. Rebecca, he says, an edge entering his voice. Drop it, okay? I said I've got it handled. She stands, crossing her arms. No, I don't think I will drop it. In fact, I think it's time we had a conversation about a lot of things you've been handling. James rises too, his body language shifting from casual to alert. What's going on? Tell me about Elizabeth, Rebecca says simply. The color drains from James's face so completely it's as if someone has pulled a plug. For a long moment he doesn't speak, doesn't move. Then, slowly, a mask descends. The composed, charming facade I now recognize as his truest self. Elizabeth? He repeats, his voice perfectly balanced between confusion and concern. What are you talking about? Elizabeth Anderson, Rebecca clarifies. Your wife. James laughs, but there's no humor in it. Beck, I don't know what you think you found, but you're confused. You're my wife, the only one. Stop lying, James. Rebecca's voice trembles now, her composure cracking. I know everything. The house in Burlington, the university where she teaches, the life you've built with her while maintaining this one with me. James takes a step back, calculating. I can almost see the gears turning behind his eyes, weighing options, crafting a new narrative to explain away the unexplainable. Rebecca, honey, he tries again, reaching for her hands, which she yanks away. I don't know who's been filling your head with these stories, but she has, Rebecca interrupts, nodding toward the bathroom. My cue. I step out, and for the second time tonight, I watch the color drain from James's face. But this time, there's no recovery. No mask sliding into place. Just naked panic. Elizabeth, he breathes, my name falling from his lips like a stone. Hello, James, I say, my voice a stranger's. Surprise. He looks frantically between us, a drowning man finding himself in deeper water than he expected. This isn't... I can explain. Explain what, exactly? I ask, moving to stand beside Rebecca. Explain how you married both of us? How you've been living two separate lives? How you've lied to us every day for years? Or maybe, Rebecca adds, you can explain our son, the baby you told Elizabeth you wanted to have with her, while you already had one with me. James backs up until he hits the wall, cornered physically as he is metaphorically. You don't understand, he begins. The situation is complicated. Then uncomplicate it for us, I suggest coldly. He runs a hand through his hair, disheveling his perfect styling. I love you both, he says finally. Is that so hard to believe? That a man could love two women? That I didn't want to hurt either of you by choosing? The audacity of his response ignites something in me. So instead, you chose to lie to both of us? To make vows you knew you couldn't keep? To father a child with one wife while promising another you'd start a family soon? My voice rises with each question. You didn't choose not to hurt us, James. You chose to control us. Control, he echoes, indignation creeping into his expression. I've given you both everything. Beautiful homes, financial security, love. Love? Rebecca interrupts, incredulous. You think this is love? You wouldn't understand, James insists, a note of condescension entering his voice that I've never heard before. Most people live such limited lives, confined by arbitrary social rules. I refuse to be constrained like that. Why should I have to choose? Why deny myself happiness with Elizabeth? Just because I already had it with you. His justification is so self-serving, so narcissistic, that it leaves me breathless. This is the real James, I realize. The man behind the mask. A man who believes the rules that govern human decency simply don't apply to him. You're sick, I tell him, my voice low and steady. Not mentally ill. Rebecca's right about that. Just morally bankrupt. Empty inside. James's expression hardens. Don't psychoanalyze me, Elizabeth. You think you're so insightful with your literature and your analysis, but you didn't see what was right in front of you for 5 years. The personal attack lands like a slap, but I refuse to flinch. And you? He turns to Rebecca, his voice cruel now. So desperate for security that you never questioned anything. So grateful to have me that you accepted every flimsy excuse. In the corner, Michael stirs at the tension in the room, making a small, distressed sound. Rebecca immediately moves to him, lifting him, protective. James's eyes follow her, softening at the sight of his son. "This isn't good for the baby," he says, changing tactics. "We should discuss this another time when we're all calmer." "There is no another time," I tell him. "There's no more discussion. It's over, James." He focuses on me now, his expression calculated. "Is it? You're just gonna throw away 5 years? All the love we've shared? The life we've built? I know you, Elizabeth. You don't make rash decisions." "This isn't rash," I reply. "This is the only possible response to finding out my entire marriage is a lie." "Not a lie," he insists. "Just incomplete information." Rebecca makes a sound of disbelief. "Incomplete information? You married both of us. You maintained 2 separate homes, 2 separate lives. You had a child with me while promising one to Elizabeth." She's shouting now, and Michael begins to cry, his wails adding to the chaos of the moment. James steps forward, hands raised placatingly. "Shh, you're upsetting him. Let me—" "Don't you dare touch my son," Rebecca hisses, backing away. Something dark flashes in James's eyes. "My son too, Rebecca. Don't forget that." The threat implicit in his words sends a chill through me. For the first time, I feel not just betrayed or humiliated, but afraid. This man, this stranger, is capable of far more deception than I ever imagined. What else might he be capable of? "I think you should leave," I say quietly, moving subtly between James and Rebecca. His laugh is ugly. "Leave? This is my room. I paid for it." "Not anymore," Rebecca says, bouncing Michael gently. "We'll be checking out tomorrow, both of us." James's gaze snaps between us, calculation clear in his eyes. "You think it's that simple? That you can just walk away? We're married. We have legal obligations to each other." He focuses on Rebecca. "We have a child together." "Yes," she agrees, her voice stronger now. "We do. And everything I've done tonight has been recorded on my phone, which is transmitting to my sister's computer as we speak. It's a bluff. There is no recording, no sister watching. But James doesn't know that. Uncertainty flickers across his face. "You're lying." "Am I?" Rebecca challenges. "You'd know all about lying, wouldn't you? Care to risk finding out?" For a moment, we're at an impasse, the 3 of us locked in a triangle of tension. Michael's cries the only sound. Then James's shoulders slump, not in defeat, but in tactical retreat. "Fine," he says coldly. "You both need time to process. We'll talk when you're thinking more clearly." He reaches for the door. "But don't think this is over. Either of you." The door closes behind him with a decisive click, leaving Rebecca and me staring at each other over the crying baby. "Did you see his eyes?" she whispers. I nod, unable to speak. I had seen something in my husband's eyes I'd never witnessed before. Something cold and calculating and utterly foreign to the man I thought I knew. Something dangerous. We don't sleep that night. How could we? Instead, we talk, plan, strategize. Rebecca calls the front desk, asking for additional security on her room. I call my closest friend, Diane, explaining in fragmented sentences what has happened. She insists I come to her house immediately. "Bring Rebecca and the baby," she says without hesitation. "You shouldn't be alone." By dawn, we're in my car heading to Diane's Victorian on the other side of town. Michael sleeps in his car seat, blissfully unaware that his world has been irreparably altered. In the passenger seat, Rebecca stares out the window, her profile etched against the rising sun. I wonder what she sees in the passing landscape. The same shattered future I'm envisioning, perhaps. "Do you think he'll come after us?" she asks, her voice small in the quiet car. I consider the question carefully. "I don't know," I admit. "I've never seen that side of him before. I don't know what he's capable of." "I have," she says, so quietly I almost miss it. "Seen that side of him. Just glimpses. When he doesn't get his way, when someone challenges him, it never lasts long, but it's unsettling. A chill passes through me despite the car's heat." "Has he ever hurt you?" "No," she says quickly. "Not physically, but there have been moments, a grip too tight on my wrist, a look that made me step back. It's hard to explain. I understand completely, like something moving beneath still water. She nods, relieved at my comprehension. Exactly like that. Diane meets us at the door in a floral robe, her gray hair uncombed, eyes alert despite the early hour. She hugs me fiercely, then steps back to assess the strangers I've brought to her home. "Rebecca, Michael," she says, nodding to each in turn. "Come in. I've made up the guest rooms." Inside, the familiar comfort of Diane's home, the books lining every wall, the smell of coffee brewing, the colorful throw pillows scattered across worn furniture, provides a momentary respite from the nightmare. She ushers us into the kitchen, sits us down at the round oak table, and places mugs of coffee before us without asking. "Now," she says, settling into her own chair, "tell me everything, and don't leave anything out." So we do, Rebecca and I taking turns, filling in each other's gaps, constructing between us the complete picture of James's deception. Diane listens without interruption, her expression growing darker with each revelation. "The man's a monster," she declares when we finish. "A charming, handsome monster, but a monster nonetheless." "We need to figure out what to do next," I say, wrapping my hands around my mug for warmth. "Legally, practically, everything. First things first," Diane says, ever the pragmatist. She taught mathematics at Burlington University for 30 years before retiring last spring. "Rebecca, are you legally married to James? Do you have documentation?" Rebecca nods, reaching into her purse for the folded marriage certificate she showed me yesterday. "And Elizabeth, do you have yours?" Diane asks. I hesitate. "I don't know where it is. James said he filed it. I never actually saw it." Diane's eyebrows rise. "You need to check if your marriage was ever legally registered. If it wasn't, her implication hangs in the air. Then I'm not really his wife," I finish. "Which means you have no legal claim to any shared assets," Diane points out gently. "No legal protection." The realization settles over me like a shroud. If James and I were never legally married, what rights do I have to our home, our investments, our shared life? Does my name appear on any documents at all? "The house," I say suddenly. "It's in both our names. I remember signing the papers." "That's something," Diane acknowledges. "But you need to check everything else. Bank accounts, investments, retirement funds. Michael is on his birth certificate," Rebecca adds. "That gives me some leverage, at least where he's concerned." As we talk, a strange transformation begins inside me. The shock and betrayal that paralyzed me yesterday recede, replaced by a cold clarity I've never experienced before. It's as if a fog has lifted, revealing not just the truth about James, but about myself. I've spent 5 years accommodating this man, rearranging my life to fit his preferences, accepting his vague explanations, suppressing my own instincts when something felt wrong. Why? Because I loved him, yes, but also because it was easier than confronting the possibility that the foundation of my life might be built on sand. No more. "I need to go back to the house," I announce, standing abruptly. "I need to find documentation. Secure what's mine before James has a chance to hide it or destroy it." "I'll come with you," Diane offers immediately. I shake my head. "He doesn't know you're involved. Let's keep it that way for now. It gives us an advantage." I turn to Rebecca. "You and Michael should stay here. It's safer." Rebecca looks uncertain. "What if James comes here looking for us?" "He doesn't know about Diane," I remind her. "And I'll make sure he follows me if he's looking for anyone." "I don't like this," Diane protests. "At least let me call my son to go with you. David can—" "No," I interrupt firmly. "I need to do this myself. This is my home, my life, and I won't be driven from it in fear." The conviction in my voice surprises even me. Besides, I don't think James will be there. He's too strategic to return to a place where I might be waiting. Eventually, they relent, though not without Diane insisting I take her pepper spray and extracting a promise to call every hour. As I prepare to leave, Rebecca touches my arm. "Be careful," she says, and I see genuine concern in her eyes. James isn't who we thought he was, either of us. I nod, acknowledging both her warning and the strange bond forming between us. Two women united by betrayal, by a shared determination to reclaim our lives. The drive to my house, no. not my house, our house, feels surreal, as if I'm returning to a movie set rather than a home. Nothing has changed externally. The wraparound porch still needs its autumn sweeping. The mums I planted last weekend still bloom in their pots. The mail still waits in the box. Yet everything has changed. I use my key with caution, listening carefully before entering. The house is silent, undisturbed. James hasn't been back. In my bedroom, everything remains as I left it yesterday. James's side of the closet still holds his precisely organized clothes. His toiletries still line the bathroom counter. His watch case still sits on his dresser. The ordinary remnants of a life now revealed as extraordinary in its deception. I move methodically, searching for documents, for evidence, for anything that might help me understand the scope of James's lies and protect myself from their consequences. In his home office, I finally confront the locked drawer that has haunted my thoughts since yesterday. The key isn't hidden anywhere obvious, not in his desk, not in our bedroom, but there's a false bottom in his watch case, discovered when I empty it completely, frustrated in my search. Beneath it lies a small silver key. My hands shake as I insert it into the drawer's lock. It turns smoothly, and the drawer slides open to reveal meticulous organization. Folders labeled with dates and locations, a separate checkbook, a passport. I lift the passport first. It opens to reveal James's photo beside a name I don't recognize, Michael Bennett, a second identity, complete with its own documentation. The folders contain bank statements for accounts I've never seen, correspondence about properties I didn't know existed, and, most devastating of all, photographs. James with other women, not just Rebecca, at least 3 others in various locations, all looking at him with the same adoration I once felt, that Rebecca once felt. "Oh my God," I whisper to the empty room. It's not 2 lives James has been living. It's many, a web of deception so vast and intricate I can barely comprehend it. Among the papers, I find a deed to a cabin in the Adirondacks, 3 hours away, purchased 6 years ago under the name Michael Bennett. A retreat? A hideaway? Another life entirely? My phone rings, startling me. Diane, checking in as promised. I answer mechanically, assuring her I'm fine. The house is empty. I've found important documents. I don't tell her about the other women. Not yet. The information feels too fresh, too raw, too enormous to share. After we hang up, I sit in James's office chair, surrounded by evidence of his betrayal, and feel something unexpected bloom inside me. Not despair, but determination. Not victimhood, but a fierce resolve. For 5 years, I've been a character in James's fiction, playing a role he created, following a script he wrote. No more. From now on, I write my own story. I gather the most critical documents, the fake passport, the bank statements, the property deeds, and place them in my leather satchel. Then I do something I never thought myself capable of. I take a hammer from the garage, return to the office, and methodically destroy the lock on a small safe hidden behind James's architectural awards. Inside, I find cash, thousands of dollars, and jewelry I've never seen before. Gifts for his other women, perhaps? Or insurance against a day when he might need to disappear. I take half the cash, leaving the rest and the jewelry untouched. I'm not a thief. I only want what's rightfully mine. As I work, a strange calm settles over me. I am not the woman I was yesterday. That woman, trusting, accommodating, willfully blind to the inconsistencies in her perfect life, died the moment Margaret's words reached her ears. She has your last name. The woman who emerges from this house today sees clearly for the first time. She understands what she's up against. Not just a cheating husband, but a skilled manipulator who has orchestrated multiple lives with military precision. A man who will not surrender his carefully constructed world without a fight. Let him try, this new woman thinks as she locks the front door behind her. I'm ready. Diane and Rebecca are waiting anxiously when I return, their faces tight with concern. Michael sleeps peacefully in a makeshift bassinet, an old laundry basket lined with blankets, untroubled by the adult chaos swirling around him. "You're late," Diane says by way of greeting. "I was about to call the police." "I'm sorry," I reply, setting my satchel on the kitchen table. I found more than I expected. I unzip the bag, removing its contents methodically. The fake passport, the bank statements, the deed to the Adirondack cabin, and finally, the photographs. James with other women, in other places, living other lives. Rebecca gasps, lifting one photo with trembling fingers. "There are more of us?" she whispers. "At least 3 others that I could find evidence of." I confirm. "Maybe more." Diane examines the passport, her expression grim. "Michael Bennett," she reads, complete with authentic-looking stamps. "Mexico, Canada, the Caribbean." She looks up sharply. "This isn't amateur work. This is a professional-grade false identity. And this," I say, spreading out the bank statements, "shows regular transfers to accounts I've never seen before. Large sums, going back years." Rebecca leans forward, studying the papers. "These match the deposits James made into our joint account," she says slowly. "Every month, like clockwork. He said they were client payments. I think," I say carefully, "that James may be involved in something beyond just maintaining multiple marriages. The implication hangs heavy in the air. Multiple identities, hidden cash, secret properties. These aren't just the tools of a philanderer. They're the hallmarks of something more sinister." "Money laundering?" Diane suggests, her academic mind always seeking patterns. "Or maybe some kind of long con? I don't know," I admit. "But whatever it is, it's bigger and more complex than we initially thought." Rebecca sinks into a chair, her face pale. "What have we gotten ourselves into?" "No," I correct her firmly. "What did he get us into without our knowledge or consent? This isn't our fault." Diane begins organizing the documents into neat piles. "We need legal advice," she declares, "and possibly law enforcement involvement, depending on what all this turns out to be. I have a friend," I say, "Sandra Chen. She's a criminal defense attorney. We were in the same book club before." I trail off, realizing how James had gradually isolated me from my friends over the years, always with plausible excuses. Another red flag I'd ignored. "Call her," Diane urges. "Now." While I step outside to make the call, Diane and Rebecca continue sorting through the evidence, creating a timeline of James's activities. Sandra answers on the 3rd ring, her voice wary at the unexpected contact. "Elizabeth, is everything okay?" "No," I reply honestly. "Nothing is okay. I need your help, Sandra. Professionally." There's a pause. "What's going on?" "It's complicated," I say, struggling to summarize the situation. "My husband, James, it turns out he's been living multiple lives. Multiple wives, identities, bank accounts. I found evidence that suggests he may be involved in something illegal, beyond just bigamy." Another pause, longer this time. "Are you somewhere safe?" she asks finally. "Yes. I'm at Diane Morris's house. Stay there. Don't go home. Don't contact James. I'll be there in 45 minutes. She hangs up before I can respond, leaving me standing on Diane's back porch, phone in hand, staring at the garden where late autumn flowers persist despite the cooling temperatures. Like me, I think, still standing despite everything. When I return inside, Rebecca is feeding Michael while Diane makes fresh coffee. The domesticity of the scene contrasts sharply with the documents spread across the table, evidence of a life fractured beyond recognition. "Sandra's coming," I report. "She said to stay put and not contact James." "Too late for that," Rebecca says quietly. My heart stutters. "What do you mean?" "He's been calling and texting me nonstop since dawn," she explains. "I've been ignoring him, but..." She nods toward her phone on the counter, screen lit with incoming messages. I pick it up, scrolling through the barrage of texts. "Rebecca, please call me. We need to talk. This is all a misunderstanding. I can explain everything if you'll just talk to me. Where are you? I went back to the hotel and you were gone." The messages grow increasingly urgent, then shift to threatening. "If you've gone to the police, you're making a huge mistake. Think of Michael. Think of what this will do to him. You have no idea what you're getting involved in." The final message, sent just minutes ago, chills me to the bone. "I know Elizabeth is with you. Tell her I've been to the house. I know what she took. This isn't going to end well for either of you if you continue down this path." I set the phone down carefully, as if it might bite. "He's been to the house." "What?" Diane is instantly alert. "When?" "Recently," I say, showing them the message. "He knows what I took." "That's impossible," Diane argues. "You would have passed him on the road, or seen signs that he'd been there. But would I? James has proven himself a master of deception. of moving unseen between his various lives. What if he has keys I don't know about? Access points I've never considered? The thought that he might have been watching me, might have been in the house while I was searching, sends waves of nausea through me. We should call the police, Diane insists. Rebecca shakes her head. And tell them what? That a man is texting his legal wife? That he visited his own house? We don't have enough yet to get their attention. She's right, I realize. From the outside, this still looks like a domestic dispute, a messy divorce situation. The larger pattern, the potential criminality, isn't immediately apparent without careful examination of the evidence. Sandra will know what to do, I say, trying to project more confidence than I feel. She'll be here soon. But James's message has shattered the momentary sense of security I'd built. He knows where I am. He knows what I've found. And he's warning me to back off. There's something else, I say slowly, a new realization forming. The cabin in the Adirondacks. The deed I found. It's possible there's more evidence there. Something that could help us understand what he's really involved in. Or it could be a trap, Diane points out. If he knows you took the deed, he might expect you to go there. That's true, I concede, but it might also be our only chance to find something concrete enough to get real help. Rebecca is watching me carefully. You want to go there? She states. Not a question. I think we have to, I reply. If we wait for James to make the next move, we'll always be reacting, defending. I'm tired of being one step behind him. Before anyone can respond, there's a sharp knock at the front door. Diane peers through the peephole, then visibly relaxes. It's Sandra, she says, opening the door. Sandra Chen enters like a force of nature, every inch the successful attorney in her tailored suit and practical heels. Her shrewd eyes take in the scene. Rebecca with the baby, the documents spread across the table, my tense posture, and she nods once, as if confirming a hypothesis. Start from the beginning, she instructs, setting her briefcase on a chair, and don't leave anything out. Once again, Rebecca and I recount our story, this time with the addition of the evidence I found and James's threatening messages. Sandra listens without interruption, occasionally making notes in a small leather-bound notebook. When we finish, she surveys the documents we've organized, paying particular attention to the false passport and bank records. Finally, she sits back, expression grave. You're right to be concerned, she says. This goes beyond a man with commitment issues. The multiple identities, the structured financial transactions, the threats when exposed, these suggest something more organized, more deliberate. Money laundering? Diane suggests again. Sandra considers this, possibly, or some kind of financial fraud. The regular transfers between accounts are consistent with that pattern. She turns to me. What exactly does James do for a living? You said he's an architect? Yes, I confirm. He has his own firm, Anderson Design Group. Mostly residential and small commercial projects around Vermont and upstate New York. Legitimate projects? She presses. Real buildings that actually get built? I start to say yes automatically, then pause, really thinking about it. I've seen some of them, I say slowly. The Miller renovation downtown, the new wing at Burlington Elementary. But others, I trail off, realizing how little I actually know about James's professional life, how rarely I visited his project sites, how vague he's always been about certain clients. What about clients? Sandra continues. Have you met them? Do they seem legitimate? Again, I hesitate. Some, at dinner parties or community events, but many of his projects are out of town. I've never met those clients. Sandra makes another note. And the cabin in the Adirondacks. You said it's under his alias, not his real name? I nod, pushing the deed toward her. Michael Bennett, purchased 6 years ago. That's just after he moved to Atlanta with me, Rebecca adds. He said it was for work, that the commute to Vermont would be easier. Sandra studies the deed carefully. This is interesting, she says finally. The property isn't just a cabin. According to this description, it's 10 acres with multiple structures. That's significant. Multiple structures? I repeat. Like what? Could be anything. Outbuildings, garages, guest houses. She looks up. Elizabeth is right. We need to see what's there. We? Rebecca echoes. I'm coming with you, Sandra states, brooking no argument. If there's evidence of criminal activity, you'll need a lawyer present to ensure it's handled properly. I'm coming too, Rebecca declares, bouncing Michael gently. I have as much right to answers as Elizabeth does. And I'll stay here, Diane offers. With the baby. He shouldn't be exposed to whatever you might find there. For a moment, I'm overwhelmed by the support of these women. One a longtime friend, one a new ally born of shared betrayal, one a professional connection stepping beyond her role to help. None of them had to get involved in this mess. All of them chose to. Thank you, I say simply, my voice thick with emotion. Sandra stands. All business now. We'll take my car, she decides. Elizabeth, gather the most important documents. Rebecca, write down everything you know about James's movements, contacts, anything that might connect to this cabin. Diane, can you keep copies of everything here, as backup? As everyone moves to their assigned tasks, I feel something shifting inside me again. That cold clarity crystallizing into something stronger, more defined. Yesterday, I was a betrayed wife, a victim. Today, I am an investigator, piecing together the truth about the man I married. Tomorrow, perhaps, I will be something else entirely. His reckoning. The Adirondacks in late October are a riot of color. Deep reds, burnt oranges, brilliant golds. But I barely notice the scenery as Sandra drives her black Audi along winding mountain roads. In the back seat, Rebecca sits silently, her eyes fixed on the passing landscape, occasionally checking her phone for messages from Diane about Michael. Turn right in half a mile, the GPS announces. Destination will be on your left. Sandra slows the car, eyes sharp on the road ahead. We need to be careful, she says, not for the first time. If James has any security systems in place, they might alert him to our presence. I've been thinking about that, I reply, fidgeting with the zipper of my jacket. James always insists on handling technology himself. At our house, he installed the security system personally, said he didn't trust contractors to do it right. Control, Rebecca murmurs from the back seat. Always about control. The road narrows, transitioning from asphalt to gravel, tall pines crowding close on either side. No other houses are visible, no signs of civilization beyond the rough path ahead. This is remote, Sandra observes. Very private. Perfect for hiding something, I add. We round a final curve, and there it is. Not the rustic retreat I'd imagined, but a substantial modern structure of glass and stone perched on the edge of a small lake, evergreens towering behind it like sentinels. The cabin is easily 4,000 square feet, with a 3-car garage and what appears to be a separate guest house nestled among the trees. Sandra whistles softly. This is not a weekend getaway. This is a compound. She parks at the end of the driveway, some distance from the main house. We'll approach on foot, she decides. Less obvious that way if there are cameras. We exit the car carefully, the autumn air crisp and pine-scented. Sandra leads the way, her gait purposeful but unhurried, as if we have every right to be here. Rebecca and I follow, scanning for security cameras or motion sensors. Look, Rebecca whispers, pointing to a small black dome mounted under the eaves of the garage. Camera, Sandra nods. Assume we're being recorded. Act normal, like we have legitimate business here. The front door is solid wood with an electronic keypad lock. No traditional key required. I try the handle anyway, not surprised to find it locked. Any ideas on the code? Sandra asks, studying the keypad. I shake my head, but Rebecca steps forward. Try 051512, she suggests. Our wedding date. I enter the numbers, ignoring the twinge in my chest. The lock remains engaged, a small red light blinking in rejection. What about 072419? I offer. The day he married me. Rebecca's expression tightens, but she says nothing as I punch in the sequence. Again, the lock refuses to open. His birthday? Sandra suggests. Which one? Rebecca asks bitterly. The real one or the one he told each of us? Before I can respond, a thought occurs to me. Michael, I say. Not his alias, his son. When was he born? June 12th, Rebecca answers. 061224. The numbers feel leaden under my fingertips. This time, the keypad emits a soft beep, and the light turns green. The door unlocks with an audible click. Rebecca and I exchange a look, relief mingled with pain. Even here, in this secret place, James kept his son close. Stay behind me, Sandra instructs, pushing the door open slowly. The interior is minimalist and expensive. Concrete floors, soaring ceilings, wall-to-wall windows overlooking the lake. It's impeccably clean, as if recently prepared for guests. No dust, no signs of disuse. Someone has been here, and recently. Look for an office, Sandra directs, or anywhere he might keep documents. We spread out, moving cautiously through the space. The kitchen is state-of-the-art, but shows no signs of use. The living room contains sleek furniture and abstract art, but no personal items, no photographs, nothing to indicate who owns this place. It's like a high-end rental property, designed to impress but reveal nothing. Elizabeth, Rebecca calls from down a hallway. You should see this. I follow her voice to what appears to be the master bedroom. King-sized bed, precisely made, windows framing a perfect view of the water, but it's not the room itself that has captured Rebecca's attention. It's what she's found in the closet. Women's clothes. Not just a few items, but a full wardrobe. Dresses, blouses, jeans, shoes. And not just one woman's style or size. Multiple sizes, multiple styles. These aren't mine, Rebecca says quietly, running her fingers along a silk blouse. I've never been here before. Nor mine, I add, examining a pair of designer shoes far too small for either of us. He brings them here. Rebecca concludes, her voice hollow. The other women. This is his, what? Love nest? Secret getaway? Before I can respond, Sandra calls from across the hall. In here, now. We hurry to join her in what can only be described as a command center. One entire wall is covered with monitors displaying security feeds. The driveway where Sandra's car is parked, the perimeter of the property, the dock at the lake's edge. Another wall holds filing cabinets, locked with the same electronic keypads as the front door. But it's what Sandra is examining on the large desk that draws our attention. A laptop, open and active, no password required. He left in a hurry, Sandra murmurs. Didn't even shut down properly. Or he wants us to find this, I caution, suddenly wary. He knew I took the deed. He knew we might come here. Sandra nods, acknowledging the possibility, which is why we need to be quick and thorough. She taps a few keys, navigating through files with practiced efficiency. Financial records, she says, pointing to a folder on the screen. Lots of them. I lean closer, scanning the document titles. Anderson Design Group, I read. But these aren't architectural projects. They're... What are these? Investment prospectuses, Sandra explains grimly. For developments that don't exist. See these addresses? I recognize some of them. They're empty lots or existing buildings, not new developments. He's been soliciting investments for fake projects? I ask, the implications dawning slowly. Not just soliciting, Sandra corrects, opening another file. Receiving millions of dollars from investors who think they're funding legitimate real estate developments. Rebecca sinks into a nearby chair. He's running a Ponzi scheme. Sandra continues exploring the laptop, her expression growing more troubled with each discovery. It's more complex than that. Look here. Offshore accounts, shell companies, a network of transactions designed to obscure the source and destination of funds. This isn't just fraud. It's sophisticated money laundering. For whom? I ask, feeling increasingly out of my depth. James isn't smart enough to orchestrate something this complicated on his own. Maybe not, Sandra agrees. But he's clearly involved up to his neck. She plugs a small drive into the laptop. I'm copying everything. This is evidence of major financial crimes. While Sandra works, I turn my attention to the filing cabinets. Let's try the same code, I suggest, entering Michael's birth date into the first keypad. It opens immediately, revealing folders organized by date and location. I pull out the most recent one, labeled Burlington Current. Inside are photographs, surveillance photos of our house, of me leaving for work, of Rebecca's hotel. Also included are printouts of bank statements, our joint accounts, showing recent withdrawals I made before leaving the house yesterday. He's been watching us, I say, my voice steady despite the chill spreading through my body, tracking our movements. Rebecca joins me at the cabinet, pulling out another folder. This one contains similar surveillance of another woman, petite, dark-haired, leaving what appears to be a hospital in Boston. Dr. Sarah Whitman, Rebecca reads from a notation on one photo. Cardiothoracic surgeon, Boston General. Relationship status, maintained. Maintained, I repeat, the clinical term turning my stomach. like we're assets to be managed, or liabilities to be contained, Sandra adds, still working at the laptop. We continue through the files, discovering documentation on not just 3 additional women, as I'd initially thought, but 7. 7 lives James has been maintaining across the Northeast, each woman assigned a rating, a status, and a detailed history of investments, emotional and financial, he's made in the relationship. It's all transactional to him, Rebecca says, disgust evident in her voice. All of us. Just entries in a ledger. Not quite, I counter, finding a folder with my name. Inside is a detailed breakdown of my finances before meeting James, my career trajectory, and, most disturbing, notes on my psychological profile. Highly intelligent but emotionally vulnerable due to childhood abandonment issues. Responds well to validation of intellectual achievements. Easy to isolate from support networks due to introversion and work focus. I close the folder, feeling violated in a way that transcends even the betrayal of his multiple marriages. He hadn't just deceived me. He'd studied me, identified my weaknesses, and exploited them systematically. We need to go, Sandra announces suddenly, removing her drive from the laptop. We have what we need, and staying longer is dangerous. Wait, Rebecca says, pulling one final folder from the cabinet. This one is unmarked except for a red dot in the corner. Inside are passport photos of James under various names, contact information for what appear to be criminal associates, and, most chilling, a list of contingency protocols in case of exposure. In event of discovery by E or R, Rebecca reads, her voice shaking, initiate Protocol Delta, recovery of assets, elimination of liabilities, execution of exit strategy. Elimination of liabilities, I repeat slowly. That's us. We're the liabilities. Sandra takes the folder, adding it to the evidence she's gathered. This goes beyond fraud now. This is potential conspiracy to commit violence. We need to get this to the authorities immediately. As if summoned by her words, headlights sweep across the windows. A vehicle approaching down the driveway. Someone's coming, I whisper, moving to peer through the blinds. A black SUV with tinted windows crawls toward the house, still some distance away but closing fast. James? Rebecca asks, her face pale. I can't tell, I admit. The windows are too dark. Sandra is already in motion, gathering our evidence, closing the filing cabinet. We need to go, now, out the back, through the woods to the car. But they'll see the car, Rebecca protests. Not if we circle around, Sandra counters. The property backs up to state forest. We can cut through, come out on the main road beyond the driveway. We move swiftly, Sandra leading us through a back door onto a deck, then down steps to a narrow trail that disappears into the dense woods. Behind us, the SUV's engine cuts off. Car doors slam. Run, Sandra urges quietly. Stay together. The forest swallows us, golden leaves cushioning our footsteps as we flee. I glance back once to see 2 men in dark suits entering the house through the front door. Not James, but someone he sent. Someone who might be looking for liabilities to eliminate. Fear propels us forward, faster than I thought possible. Branches whipping past. The path growing fainter as we push deeper into unfamiliar terrain. Sandra consults her phone occasionally, using GPS to navigate toward the main road. Almost there, she encourages after what feels like miles, but is probably only half a kilometer. Just beyond that ridge, we emerge from the trees onto the shoulder of the paved road, perhaps a quarter-mile past the turnoff to the cabin. Sandra's car is visible in the distance, unattended and undisturbed. We made it, Rebecca breathes, relief evident in her voice. Not yet, Sandra cautions. Not until we get this evidence to people who can protect you both and begin building a case. As we walk briskly toward the car, I feel a strange sensation. Not fear anymore, but a cold, clear purpose. James thought he could control us, manipulate us, perhaps even harm us if we became inconvenient. He thought we were weak, exploitable, manageable. He was wrong. When we get back, I say, my voice steady and determined, I want to contact the other women. All of them. They deserve to know what kind of man they're involved with, what kind of danger they might be in. Rebecca nods in agreement. United, we're stronger and more credible. One step at a time, Sandra advises as we reach the car. First, we secure your safety. Then we build the case methodically. James has powerful connections. based on what we've seen. This won't be simple or quick. I don't care how long it takes, I reply, sliding into the passenger seat. He doesn't get to win. Not anymore. Cassandra starts the engine and pulls onto the road, heading away from the cabin and the men who might be searching for us now. I feel something I haven't experienced since this nightmare began. Not just anger or determination, but a profound sense of reclaiming power. My power. James took 5 years of my life. He won't take another day. 3 months later, I sit in the back of a federal courtroom, watching as James is led in wearing an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed before him. His normally immaculate hair is disheveled, his confident posture diminished by confinement. He scans the gallery, his eyes finding mine for a brief, electric moment before sliding away. Beside me sits Rebecca, elegant in a simple navy dress, her expression carefully neutral. On my other side is Diane, her presence a steady comfort. In the row ahead, 3 other women: Sarah Whitman, the Boston surgeon, Melissa Torres, a Chicago attorney, and Catherine Devereaux, a gallery owner from Philadelphia, sit together, united by shared betrayal and determination. It took weeks to find them all, to break through their initial disbelief and denial, to convince them that the man they loved was a fraud in every sense. Some had been with James longer than Rebecca or me, some shorter, but all had been carefully selected, meticulously groomed, and systematically exploited, financially, emotionally, personally. All rise, the bailiff announces as Judge Eleanor Harmon enters the courtroom. Criminal case number 2025 CR 487, United States versus James Michael Anderson, also known as Michael Bennett, also known as James Bennett, also known as Michael Reynolds. The list of aliases continues, each name representing another life, another deception. The charges follow: wire fraud, money laundering, identity theft, tax evasion, and conspiracy. The Ponzi scheme alone involved over $20 million from investors who believed they were funding legitimate architectural projects. The money laundering operation, we learned, serviced several criminal organizations, using James's architectural firm as a front to clean illicit funds. No charges of bigamy, interestingly. Only Rebecca was legally married to James, it turned out. The rest of us had gone through ceremonies that were never officially registered, our marriages existing only in falsified documents James created, and in our own belief. I watch him now as he sits beside his defense attorney, a polished man in an expensive suit, who looks uncomfortable with his client. James appears smaller somehow, diminished by the harsh fluorescent lights and the weight of his exposed crimes. Yet even now, he maintains a certain poise, an air of confidence that suggests he still believes he can talk his way out of this, charm his way free. He's wrong. The preliminary hearing proceeds with dry legal formality. Bail has already been denied, given James's multiple identities and the high risk of flight. Today is about scheduling, procedural matters, confirmation of charges. I find my mind drifting back to the day everything changed. That moment in my kitchen when Margaret's words sliced through my carefully constructed reality. She has your last name. Just 4 words that demolished the foundation of my life and set me on this unexpected path. The weeks following our discovery at the Adirondack compound were a blur of FBI interviews, protective custody, and gradual revelations about the true scope of James's criminal enterprise. We learned he'd been operating his scheme for over 15 years, long before any of us entered his life. We were props in his performance, unwitting fronts for his criminal activities, providing respectability and cover for his real operations. Each of us had been selected for specific attributes: Rebecca for her trusting nature and nurturing personality, Sarah for her prestigious position and access to wealthy medical colleagues, Melissa for her legal connections, Catherine for her access to art world money, and me for my academic credibility, my introversion that made isolation easier and perhaps most valuable to James, my comprehensive insurance policy that he had made the beneficiary of shortly after our marriage. Had he planned to eliminate me eventually? To cash in on that policy once my utility was exhausted? The FBI believed it possible, given the contingency protocols we discovered. I try not to dwell on how close I might have come to becoming more than just a financial liability. Ms. Anderson? The judge's voice pulls me back to the present. I focus on her stern face, realizing she has addressed me directly. Yes, Your Honor, I respond, rising automatically. The defense has requested to speak with you privately before proceeding further. Do you wish to grant this request? I feel Rebecca tense beside me, Diane's hand on my arm tightening in warning. Across the aisle, Sandra Chen, who has been coordinating with the federal prosecutors, gives an almost imperceptible shake of her head. But I've been waiting for this moment, expecting it. I would be willing to speak with the defendant, I say clearly, but not privately, only in the presence of the prosecutors and my attorney. The judge nods. That seems reasonable. We'll arrange a conference room after these proceedings conclude. James turns in his seat, his eyes finding mine again. This time I don't look away. I want him to see what's there. Not anger, not hatred, not even fear. Just clarity. Complete, unburdened clarity. 2 hours later, I sit across from James in a stark conference room, Sandra beside me, 2 federal prosecutors flanking us like sentinels. James's attorney hovers anxiously nearby, clearly uncomfortable with this meeting but unable to dissuade his client. Elizabeth, James begins, his voice that familiar blend of warmth and quiet authority that once made my heart race. Now it only confirms how practiced his performance has always been. Thank you for agreeing to see me. I say nothing, waiting. Let him fill the silence, reveal his purpose. I know you must hate me, he continues, leaning forward. You have every right to, but there's something you don't understand, something I never got to explain. Again, I wait. Sandra shifts slightly beside me, a reminder of her presence, her protection. James sighs, running a hand through his hair, a calculated gesture of vulnerability I've seen him employ countless times. Everything I did for us, for our future. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I took shortcuts. But my end goal was always to provide security, stability. For which us? I ask finally, my voice steady. There were at least 7 of us, James. 7 women who thought they were your only one. He has the audacity to look pained. It's complicated. My feelings for each of you were genuine. Different, but genuine. Feelings, I repeat, the word hollow. Were your feelings genuine when you planned your contingency protocols? When you listed us as liabilities to be eliminated? Something flickers in his eyes, the first authentic reaction I've seen. Fear, perhaps, or simply recognition that his usual tactics won't work here. That wasn't what it sounds like, he insists. Corporate terminology, that's all. Protective measures. Save it for the jury, one of the prosecutors interjects. We're not here to debate semantics. James ignores him, focusing entirely on me. Elizabeth, he says, lowering his voice to that intimate register he used to employ when we were alone. You and I had something special. You know we did. The others, they were part of the business, part of what I needed to maintain appearances. But you were real. I almost laugh at the transparency of his approach. Let me guess, I reply evenly. You've said exactly the same thing to Rebecca, and to Sarah, and to each of the others. His silence is confirmation enough. Why did you want to see me, James? Really? He hesitates, then appears to make a decision. They're offering a deal. 20 years instead of life if I provide information on the organizations I worked with. My attorney thinks I should take it. And I wanted your opinion. His eyes hold mine, searching for something. The lingering affection, perhaps, that might make me prioritize his freedom over justice. My opinion, I repeat slowly, is that 20 years seems remarkably lenient for what you've done. Not just the financial crimes, but the calculated emotional devastation you inflicted on 7 women who loved and trusted you. The child you brought into this world as part of your cover. The lives you derailed and redirected to serve your purposes. His expression hardened slightly. I never forced any of you to be with me. You all made your own choices. Choices based on deliberate lies. I correct him. That's not choice. That's manipulation. James leans back, a new calculation visible behind his eyes. I still have information you might want, he offers. About all of you. Things I never told anyone else. Are you threatening us? Sandra interrupts sharply. Not threatening, he amends smoothly. Offering a transaction. My silence for your, let's call it leniency. Your statements to the court can influence my sentencing, you know. And there it is. The real James. The transactional manipulator who sees every human interaction as an opportunity for leverage. The man who assessed my abandonment issues and vulnerability to validation as exploitable weaknesses rather than human complexities deserving of care. I stand, gathering my notes. I think we're done here. Elizabeth, he says, urgency creeping into his voice. Don't walk away. You're making a mistake. I pause at the door, turning to face him one last time. No, James. My mistake was not walking away 5 years ago, the first time something felt wrong, but I convinced myself to ignore it. My mistake was allowing you to isolate me from my friends, to make me dependent on your validation, to redefine my reality to suit your narrative. His expression tightens, the mask of contrition slipping to reveal the cold calculation beneath. You'll regret this, he says softly. No, I reply with absolute certainty. I won't. Outside the conference room, Rebecca is waiting, Michael asleep in a carrier against her chest. The other women hover nearby, tension evident in their postures. What did he want? Rebecca asks quietly. To manipulate me one last time, I tell her. To use what we once shared as leverage for a more lenient sentence. She nods, unsurprised. Did it work? Not even close. A month later, James accepts the prosecutor's deal. 25 years, not 20, after his attempt to intimidate witnesses backfired. The court orders restitution to his victims and investors, though the money will never fully materialize. Too much has been spent, hidden, or lost. On the day of his sentencing, we are all there, the 7 women whose lives he derailed, united not by him now, but by our collective determination to rebuild, to reclaim, to move forward. Rebecca holds Michael, who babbles happily, oblivious to the significance of the day. The other women sit with their own support networks, family members, friends, therapists who have helped them process the betrayal. As James is led away, he glances back one final time. His eyes meet mine briefly, and I see something there I never witnessed before. Defeat. The recognition that his carefully constructed world has not just cracked, but completely shattered, beyond any hope of repair. Outside the courthouse, reporters wait with cameras and microphones, hungry for statements from the wives of the architect con man, as headlines have dubbed us. By mutual agreement, we've declined all interviews until now, focusing instead on healing, on supporting each other, on rebuilding our individual lives. Today is different. Today we face the cameras together. 7 women united by extraordinary circumstance but standing as individuals, each with her own voice, her own story, her own path forward. We are not victims, I begin. The others arrayed beside me in silent solidarity. We are survivors of a calculated deception that stole years of our lives but not our futures. Today is not about James Anderson or whatever name he chooses to use. Today is about reclaiming our narratives, our identities, and our power. The cameras flash, capturing this moment of transformation. Behind us, the courthouse stands solid and impassive, justice imperfect but delivered. Before us lies uncertainty, yes, but also possibility. Lives redirected not by a master manipulator, but by our own choices, our own strength, our own determination to write better stories than the ones that were written for us. Today, I conclude, we turn the page. 1 year later, I stand on the wraparound porch of what was once our house, James's and mine, watching autumn leaves spiral down from maple trees I planted when I still believed in the life we were building together. The morning air is crisp with Vermont fall, mist rising from the lake in the distance, the world quiet except for birdsong and the occasional car passing on the street below. The house is on the market now, finally extricated from the legal tangle of James's estate. My attorney assures me the sale will close next month, the proceeds split between restitution for his investors and a trust for Michael, whose future should not be mortgaged by his father's crimes. I'll miss this porch, I think, running my hand along the smooth wooden railing, but not the house itself, which still holds too many ghosts, too many moments of false intimacy, too many memories of a man who never truly existed. My phone buzzes with a text from Rebecca. Still on for brunch tomorrow? Michael keeps asking about Aunt Lizzie. I smile, typing back, wouldn't miss it. Tell the little man I'm bringing blueberry muffins. The unexpected friendship that bloomed between Rebecca and me remains one of the few positive outcomes of this ordeal. What began as a bond forged in shared betrayal has evolved into something genuine and sustaining. Two women who understand each other's wounds without explanation, who can reference before and after with perfect clarity. Rebecca moved back to Georgia eventually, to be near her family as she rebuilds her life and raises Michael. But she returns to Vermont every few months, staying in my guest room, allowing Michael to know the place that is part of his history, if not his home. The other women have scattered to their respective lives, each healing in her own way. We maintain contact through a private online group, sharing milestones, setbacks, revelations. Sarah has recently begun dating again, approaching the process with careful deliberation and hard-won wisdom. Melissa has channeled her legal expertise into advocacy for victims of financial abuse. Catherine used her ordeal as inspiration for a powerful exhibition, exploring themes of identity and deception. As for me, I've returned to what has always anchored me: my work, my research, my teaching, but with a difference. My new book, nearly complete on my desk inside, examines how women's narratives are constructed, controlled, and ultimately reclaimed in the aftermath of profound betrayal. It draws not just on literary analysis but on lived experience, mine and others, weaving academic inquiry with personal testimony. Burlington University granted me a sabbatical after everything happened, understanding my need for space to process and reflect. When I returned to campus, it was with a new course offering: Narratives of Deception and Recovery in American Culture. The waiting list for registration stretched into triple digits. I check my watch. Nearly time for coffee with Diane, a Saturday ritual we've maintained since the day she opened her home to two desperate strangers and a baby. The media attention eventually faded, but not before dubbing us the Seven Wives, a sensationalistic label that reduced our complex experiences to tabloid fodder. Diane helped me weather that storm, reminding me that public fascination is fleeting, that eventually we would reclaim our privacy, our individuality. She was right, as she so often is. These days, I can grocery shop without whispers following me down the aisles. I can attend faculty functions without becoming the center of unwanted attention. I can exist as Elizabeth Anderson, professor of American literature, rather than Elizabeth Anderson, one of the wives. As I turn to go inside, my gaze catches on a small garden I planted last spring, not in the precise, controlled style James preferred, but wild and slightly chaotic, flowers intermingling with herbs and vegetables in defiance of conventional landscaping. A metaphor too obvious to ignore, but no less meaningful for its transparency. Inside, I gather my notes and laptop for coffee with Diane. My house, truly mine now, not a space I shared with a ghost, feels different these days. I've rearranged furniture, repainted walls, replaced the expensive, impersonal art James selected with pieces that speak to me, small acts of reclamation, of reinvention. The locked drawer in his office, my office now, stands open and empty, its secrets long since exposed and catalogued as evidence. The safe behind his awards now holds nothing more dangerous than my passport and a modest emergency fund. The spaces once filled with his deception now contain only what I choose to put there. As I prepare to leave, I pass the hallway mirror and pause, studying my reflection. I look different than I did a year ago. Not just the new haircut or the clothes I've chosen without unconsciously considering someone else's preferences. There's a clarity in my eyes, a certainty in my posture that wasn't there before. The woman who stares back at me is not the same one who stood frozen in her kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, hearing the words that would unravel her life. That woman existed in a narrative written by someone else, her identity shaped by calculated manipulations, her reality distorted by a funhouse mirror of lies. This woman, the one I've become, writes her own story. On the drive to meet Diane, I reflect on a question my therapist posed during our session last week. Do you regret loving him? It's a complex question, one I've turned over repeatedly in my mind. Do I regret the years given to a man who never truly existed? The dreams built on a foundation of sand? The self I set aside to become the woman he wanted me to be? Yes and no. I regret the deception, the manipulation, the lost time. But I don't regret my capacity for love, for trust, for building a life with another person. Those qualities weren't weaknesses James exploited. They were strengths he corrupted, and they remain intact, if wiser now, changed, but not diminished. At the cafe, Diane waits at our usual table by the window, 2 coffees already ordered. Mine black, hers with an indulgent amount of cream. She waves when she sees me, her face lighting with genuine pleasure. "You look well," she says as I slide into my seat. "I feel well," I reply, and mean it. "Any news on the house sale?" I nod, sipping my coffee. "Closing next month, if all goes according to plan." "And then?" she asks. "Have you decided?" The question refers to a possibility I've been considering, an opportunity that arrived unexpectedly last month, a visiting professorship at Oxford for the spring semester, a chance to step away from Burlington, from the remnants of my life with James, from the subtle weight of being known primarily through my connection to a notorious criminal. "I'm going," I tell her, the decision crystallizing as I speak it aloud. I emailed my acceptance this morning. Diane's smile is warm, but tinged with sadness. "I'll miss our coffee dates. It's just for a semester," I remind her, "and there's always video calls. It'll be good for you," she says, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "New places, new people who don't know before." She's right, of course. Oxford represents not escape, but expansion, a broadening of horizons, a fresh perspective, a semester of being simply Elizabeth Anderson, American literature scholar, rather than Elizabeth Anderson, survivor of extraordinary deception. "What about you?" I ask, deflecting attention from my own plans. "Any updates on the retirement trip?" Diane launches into details of her planned Mediterranean cruise, her enthusiasm infectious. As she speaks, I find myself imagining her adventures, the ancient ruins she'll explore, the foods she'll sample, the photographs she'll share upon return, the ability to project forward, to anticipate joy in the future. This, too, is a form of healing. Later, walking back to my car under trees blazing with autumn color, I think about the women whose lives intersected with mine through James's deception. Each of us entered his orbit separately, unaware of the others. Each believed herself uniquely loved, specially chosen. Each discovered, in the most painful way possible, that she was one node in a network of lies. Yet what emerged from that shared trauma wasn't just anger or grief or disillusionment, though those emotions certainly had their season. What emerged, unexpectedly, was connection, real connection, based not on deception, but on truth, however difficult that truth might be. I unlock my car, sliding into the driver's seat. Before starting the engine, I check my phone to find emails from Sarah and Catherine, both responding to news of my Oxford position with congratulations and encouragement. A text from Melissa shares a link to a new support group she's helping establish for victims of complex financial fraud. These women, once strangers linked only by a man who betrayed us all, have become a circle of support I never anticipated but now deeply value. As I drive home through streets dappled with autumn light, I consider the journey of the past year, the shock and disbelief, the rage and grief, the slow, painstaking work of rebuilding, not just practical matters like finances and living arrangements, but the more fundamental reconstruction of identity, of trust, of belief in my own perceptions. It hasn't been linear, this healing. There have been setbacks, moments when anger resurged with unexpected force, nights when sleep evaded me as I mentally revisited warning signs I should have heeded. But the general trajectory has been forward, toward a life reclaimed and redefined. Back home, I settle on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the sun slide toward the horizon. In a few months, this view will no longer be mine. The thought brings both melancholy and anticipation. An ending, yes, but also a beginning. My phone rings. Rebecca, calling rather than texting, which usually indicates something important. "Elizabeth?" Her voice holds an unfamiliar note of excitement. "You'll never believe what happened." She proceeds to tell me about a job offer, a position at a pediatric hospital in Boston, heading up a new program for children with cancer. Her dream job, the culmination of her career aspirations, the opportunity she set aside years ago to follow James. "That's wonderful," I tell her, genuinely delighted by her news. "You deserve this. It means moving again," she says, her voice softening. "Further from Georgia, from my family, but closer to Vermont." I finish for her. "Yes." She pauses. Would that be okay? Us being closer?" The question holds layers of meaning, practical concerns about boundaries and emotional territory, deeper uncertainties about how our unusual friendship fits into our individual paths forward. More than okay, I assure her. It would be wonderful for you and Michael to be closer. Her relief is audible. I was hoping you'd say that. Michael needs stable people in his life, people who understand everything, and I need a friend who gets it without explanation. After we hang up, I remain on the porch until dusk settles around me, thinking about the strange geometry of life, how lines that begin in very different places can converge in unexpected ways, how patterns emerge from what once seemed like chaos, how meaning can be constructed from even the most painful experiences. James believed himself the architect of all our lives, designing our experiences to serve his purposes, arranging us in ignorance of each other like rooms in separate wings of a house. What he never anticipated was that we would discover each other, that we would join forces, that we would redesign the blueprint he created into something entirely new, something authentic, something strong, something ours. The first stars appear overhead, pinpricks of light in the deepening blue. Tomorrow we'll bring brunch with Rebecca and Michael, coffee with Diane, work on the final chapter of my book. Next month we'll bring the house closing and preparations for Oxford. Next year we'll bring, who knows? The future stretches before me, not as a predetermined path, but as a landscape of possibility. I once believed James when he told me, "My past doesn't matter, only our future does." The irony isn't lost on me that his past ultimately destroyed our future, revealing both statements as lies. But there was an accidental truth hidden in his deception. The future does matter, not as an escape from the past, but as a continuation of it, a story that incorporates all that came before, while refusing to be limited by it. My story continues, different than I imagined, marked by experiences I never sought, but authentically mine now in a way it never was when James held the pen. As darkness falls completely, I gather my empty teacup and head inside, closing the door on the porch where so many false promises were once exchanged. Tomorrow, I'll sit there again, perhaps with Rebecca and Michael, creating new memories to overlay the old ones, reclaiming the space inch by inch, moment by moment. That's how healing happens after all. Not in grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but in quiet moments of choice, of presence, of persistent reclamation, one day at a time. One truth at a time, one page at a time, until the story becomes your own again.